let's head over to the wonderfully quirky Bridge and Biscotti Club. You know the place, where the snacks are just as hard as the decisions you have to make. We're about to unpack a pretty cool strategic tale. It's all about a single rule, two totally different players, and, well, two very different outcomes. So let's jump right in. Okay, so our whole story hangs on this one bridge convention. And get this, it can either be a total stroke of genius or, as one source put it, a recipe for public humiliation. Ouch. So what is this high-stakes rule that could either make you a hero or, have you hiding under the table? So the rule we're talking about is Mel Colchamiro's rule of 2 + 6. Most people just call it the rule of 8, which is way easier to remember. And it's basically a handy little shortcut, a heuristic that players use to make a really specific and, honestly, a pretty tricky decision when it's their turn to bid. Okay, before we get to the drama at the two tables, we gotta break down how this rule actually works. Don't worry, it's really just some simple math that helps a player figure out what to do in a split second. So its job is super specific. Picture this. Your opponent opens the bidding with a strong 1-no trump. The question is, what do? Do you jump in and compete, or do you just pass and stay quiet? That's the exact problem this rule is designed to solve. So, how do we make the right choice? Glad you asked. Here's our game plan. We'll start by digging into the dilemma itself, then introduce the rule that's designed to solve it. After that, we'll walk through the exact 4-step calculation, see it in action with a real hand, and finally, talk about when to trust the numbers and when to trust your gut. All right, let's dive right in. What is it that makes this particular decision so tough? Well, it really all boils down to a classic risk versus reward situation. Think about it. If you decide to bid, you're putting yourself out there. You could get doubled and go down for a huge penalty. You might even give the other team clues that help them play the hand better. But if you pass, you could be missing a golden opportunity to find your own contract, or you might just sit back and watch the opponents cruise to an easy score. You're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. So how do we get out of this jam? Instead of just guessing or going with a vague feeling, what if we had a simple, number-based framework to guide us? Well, this is where the rule of 2 + 6 comes into play, and it's a real game changer. This rule, which you might also hear called the rule of 8, is a guideline that was created for this exact situation. Its whole purpose is to make your competitive bids safer by looking at both the shape of your hand and its strength. It's all about making a disciplined, smarter decision based on the odds. And the benefits of using it are huge. This rule gives you a clear framework that stops you from making those wild, aggressive bids on weekends, but it also gives you the green light to compete when the odds are actually on your side. In the end, it's all about making better choices that pay off over the long run. Okay, so now for the really useful part, the part you can actually use at the table. How does this thing actually work? Let's break down this simple 4-step calculation that makes this rule tick. Here are the 4 steps. First, you're going to count up the cards in your 2 longest suits. Second, you'll count your losers. We'll explain that in a second. Third, you'll do a quick subtraction. And finally, you'll do a fast check for your points. Don't worry, it's way simpler than it sounds. All right, step 1. Seriously, this could not be easier. Just find your 2 longest suits and add up how many cards you have in them. Got 5 spades and 4 hearts? Your number is 9. That's it. Step 1 done. Okay, step 2 is where we introduce the idea of a loser. This is a really powerful concept for figuring out your hand's trick-taking potential. As you can see here, for any suit where you have 3 or more cards, you count 1 loser for each of the top honors you're missing, the ace, king, and queen. If you have a doubleton, just 2 cards, you only count losers for the missing ace and king. And for a singleton, just 1 card, you only worry about the missing ace. Getting good at this is a huge step up for your game. Now for step 3. This is where the magic happens. You take your number from step 1, that's the total cards in your 2 longest suits, and you subtract your total number of losers from step 2. If the number you get is 2 or more, the rule says go for it, you've got a potential bid. If it's 1 or less, the rule tells you to be disciplined and pass. So that's your magic number. 2. Remember that. And finally, if you pass the test in step 3, there's just one last little check. You need to have at least 6 high card points. And this is key, they should be quality points. That means they're preferably in your 2 long suits where they're actually going to pull their weight and help you take tricks. Okay, That's the theory. But theory is one thing, right? Let's put it into practice and see how this thing actually works with a real live hand. We'll do a quick case study so you can see it in action. So check out this hand. You're sitting in the east seat. You've got this beautiful 6-card spade suit, a pretty good 4-card heart suit, and 10 high card points. Your opponent opens 1 and T, the next 2 players passed, and now it's your turn. The spotlight's on you. What are you gonna do? Let's run the numbers, shall we? Step 1, 2 longest suits. We've got 6 spades and 4 hearts, so 6 plus 4 is 10. Easy. Step 2, let's count our losers. We have 1 in spades, 2 in hearts, 1 in diamonds, and 2 in clubs, for a grand total of 6 losers. Step 3, subtract. 10 minus 6 equals 4. I mean, that's way over our magic number of 2. It's not even close. And for step 4, our 10 points are definitely quality, since most of them are right there in our long suits. The rule is practically screaming at us to bid. But wait, there's another really important layer here. Your seat at the table matters a lot. East is in what we call the balancing seat. That's the 4th seat to act after 2 passes. And this is a much, much better spot to compete from. Why? Because the opponents have already shown some weakness. The opener's partner had a chance to bid and passed. If East was in the direct seat, right after the opener, it would be way riskier because you have no idea what their partner might be holding. And that actually brings us to a super important point. The calculation is an amazing tool, but it's not the only thing you should be thinking about. The best bridge players know that any rule is just that, a tool. You have to know when to use it and when to use your own judgment. Look, the rule is a fantastic starting point, but you've always got to use your brain, right? Before you make your move, you need to ask yourself a few more questions. Am I vulnerable, where a penalty would hurt way more? Am I in that risky direct seat? Is my hand really weird with a void or a bunch of singletons? These are all things that might make you tap the brakes a little, even if the numbers are saying go. Now, one of the coolest things about this rule is that it works no matter what system you play. Standard American, 2/1, Precision Club, it doesn't matter. But, and this is a big but, it never, ever replaces your partnership agreements. What you and your partner have agreed on always, always comes first. All right, you got the mechanics down? Good. Let's get back to the club, because this is where it gets interesting. We're about to see the exact same cards get dealt in 2 different rooms. But, and this is the crazy part, the same cards and the same rule are going to lead to wildly different results. It all comes down to who's holding them. So in room A, we've got Marjorie. Picture her. She's the cool, calm, crossword-solving queen. Then over in room B, we've got Timmy. He's fueled by espresso, and he loves to make a bold move. Both of them are going to use the rule of 8, but their decisions, phew, completely opposite. Okay, let's start in room A with Marjorie. She picks up her cards, her 2 longest suits, diamonds, and clubs. That gives her a combined length of 9. She takes a moment, carefully counts her losers, and she comes up with 7. So she does the quick calculation. 9 minus 7, that's 2. The rule suggests she could bid at the 2 level, but, could is not the same as must. And Marjorie, being Marjorie, decides to play it safe. She passes. She respects the rule, but she also trusts her gut. And what happened? Well, her opponents play the hand, they make their contract, and they score 90 points. For Marjorie's team, that's a small minus score. Totally predictable, nothing to write home about. A pretty standard, normal result. All right, now let's jump over to room B and see what our espresso-fueled friend Timmy is up to. He looks at his hand and wow, it's a powerhouse. His two longest suits are spades and hearts. That's a combined length of 10. And because his cards are so good, he only counts 6 losers. So Timmy does his math. 10 minus 6, that equals 4. Now think about this. A 2 told Marjorie she could maybe bid. A 4? That's not a suggestion. That is the rule practically screaming at Timmy, bid! Get in there! Compete! So Timmy, full of confidence and, let's be honest, probably a lot of caffeine, boldly bids 2 spades. But, oh no, it all goes wrong. The opponent's cards are just in the perfect spots to stop him, and their defense is razor sharp. He ends up going down 2 tricks. That's a minus 100 on the score sheet for his team. Total disaster, right? I mean, it definitely felt that way in the moment. So it seems pretty clear-cut. Marjorie passed, got a good result. Timmy bid, got a terrible result. So Timmy messed up. Case closed, right? Well, not so fast. This is where the math of duplicate bridge gets really, really cool. Okay, let's put the scores side by side. Remember, in duplicate bridge, it's all about comparing your score to the other table playing the same hand. So in room A, the team got a plus 90. In room B, they got a minus 100. When you add those two together, the net result for the team is just minus 10 points. That's it. And here is the big reveal. In the scoring they use for this kind of game, called IMPs, tiny little point differences basically get rounded down to 0. They just don't matter. So a tiny difference of 10 points, that converts to 0 IMPs. It's a tie, a push. I mean, think about it. All that drama, Timmy's bold bid, his crushing failure, and in the end, the result was the exact same as Marjorie's quiet, cautious pass. Isn't that wild? So, what are we supposed to make of all this? How could the rule lead Timmy so wrong, but the final outcome was totally neutral? Well, it tells us something really important about strategy and about what these kinds of rules are really designed to do. And our friend Marjorie, the wise oracle of the club, really nails it. She says the rule isn't a crystal ball. It doesn't promise you you're going to make your contract. No, its job is to tell you whether bidding is a good bet in the long run. It's all about putting pressure on the other guys, fighting for every point, even if it means taking a calculated risk that, once in a while, blows up in your face. And that's really the big lesson from our story today. Rules of thumb, like the rule of 8, they aren't magic wands that just solve everything for you. They're more like a compass. A compass points you in the right direction, right? It gives you a good sense of where to go, but it doesn't give you a perfect turn-by-turn map of every rock and river you're going to face. So that leaves us with one last thing to think about, and it goes way beyond just a card game. In anything you do, when you follow a rule of thumb, what are you actually looking for? Are you expecting a guaranteed win every single time, or are you just trying to play the odds as best you can over the long haul? Knowing the difference, well, that's what separates a smart strategy from just blind faith. And let's wrap up with a little bit of philosophy here. Sometimes you're going to follow this rule, you're going to bid, and you're going to get a terrible score. It happens. That's bridge. The rule isn't about guaranteeing a win on this one single hand. It's about game theory. It's about making the play that over hundreds or thousands of hands is going to give you the best results. So the next time your opponent opens one NT and all eyes at the table turn to you, you're going to have a new tool in your toolkit. So the real question is, will you have the confidence to use it and make that winning competitive bid?
Subscribe our channel for more videos.